It's 1947 and the war is over. Sheffield is left devastated. Hundreds are homeless.
New flats, new homes away from smoke. Council brought in a chap specially for the job to make proper plans for all this.
Then, on the spirit of victory, Park Hill Flats is built as the answer to the city's housing crisis. Fast forward more than half a century, and after decades of decline, part of Park Hill is now unrecognisable after being refurbished by ultra-chic developer Urban Splash. But minimalist interiors and luxury living isn't the only thing this regeneration has brought to Sheffield. The flats are the location of a new social experiment, with the streets in the sky now being home to a combination of buyers and social housing tenants. But will this mix be a success? Catherine Fletcher has been living in her two-bedroom flat for 5 months now. She works as a lecturer at the University of Sheffield and spent £120,000 on her home.
On this street, we have a mix of buyers and social housing tenants. And, I've not seen any problems so far. I think there is obviously quite a big variety of people living together. But actually, that's what council housing used to be like. Back in the 1970s, you did have much more of a mix of people living in council housing. So I think in some senses, council housing today is very much for a limited set of people who really haven't got any other options. And so the way you get that social mix in a development like this, within the rules as the government set them down, is by having kind of a mixture of private housing and council housing.
Grenville Squires spent a quarter of a century at Park Hill as a caretaker. He saw the community at its best, but also at its worst. He remembers the early 90s as a time when people started to leave the flats.
About 15 years ago, it seemed to all change. And I think it was when they started, people started distrusting people. And that's it. And people started moving off. They wanted to go and live out on these new houses that were being built outside Sheffield. And they couldn't afford them. They would away 12 months and they were back on. But as I say, people were just rough and ready. They were all right. But you got to catch it.
Tenants still live in part of the old site, looking out onto views of boarded-up windows and desolate walkways. Most of the flats are now empty, and all of the shops and pubs have closed down with only a nursery remaining. It could be 10 years before their block's refurbishment is completed, but for now these residents will continue to live in a ghost town.
Yeah, well, we were told we'd be moving about 8 years ago now. And then they just kept putting it back and putting it back and putting it back. And I was there waiting for a very long time with no kind of word. And they kept just putting it back. And the people slowly moved out from the other areas. And we became very isolated. And now they've started moving us out as of May last year. It was 2012 when they finally declared it. And now there's about 5 doors on my landing left. And so it is very isolating, and there isn't much support for us, really. It would be very interesting to see if it works and if they can keep a stable, happy community again in this place.
Now with more than 60,000 names on the waiting list for social housing in the city, you could say that Sheffield is back in a similar situation as it was after the war. Since 2003, more than 4,000 homes have been demolished across South Yorkshire under the Housing Market Renewal Scheme launched by Labour a decade ago. Since then, only 2,415 homes have been built in their place. It could be that in the future we need more mixed tenancy schemes like the one being run by Urban Splash. However, the developer has reported huge losses that could leave the rest of the project in jeopardy. Over 800 flats remain untouched, and success depends on the site's completion and bringing footfall back to the area. If Urban Splash has the same success as with their ventures in Manchester and Liverpool, Park Hill could act as a lifeline for a city coming out of recession. Already 2 graphic design companies have plans to move into the space on the site, and the developers discuss making part of the building into a hotel and student accommodation. Tom Lawrence, development manager for Urban Splash, has high hopes for Park Hill and is eager to attract business back into the site and rid the flats of their reputation.
I think what we're trying to do is bring back that sense of ownership and love to Park Hill, basically. So the people that either live here, regardless of tenure, whether they're renting socially or whether they've purchased it, you know, we want people who are taking a commitment to Park Hill and want to look after it and live here. And I think more people than not, if asked now about Park Hill compared to 10 years ago, would have a completely different stance on it. You know, most of the feedback that I've received is very positive, so you know, hopefully we have changed Park Hill for the better.
Park Hill's an eyesore, so pull it down. It is a blight on Sheffield's town. That's all you hear, that's all they say. Just blow it up, take it away. We need someone with some foresight who does not see it as an ugly blight, to give our flats some TLC, put back the spirit there used to be. Nowadays they just destroy. They like to play with demolition toys. Replace the concrete, repair that crack. Then put the community spirit back. Make it a place we want to see. Please give Park Hill some TLC.
Grenville may have got his wish and the scene could finally be set for Sheffield to fall back in love with Park Hill flats.